Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to your new favorite place on the internet. My name is Bella and I love talking about anything and everything that makes me happy, whether it be books, video games, K-dramas, anime, K-pop, you name it. I love sharing it with you guys. And today I really want to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of November. Here we can see a slight overview. Here's a slight overview of how it went for me in November in terms of reading. I read a total of 13 books, which is amazing considering that I haven't been in the greatest reading mood recently. I can definitely feel a reading slump coming. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to be faring in terms of reading come December, but I read some pretty incredible books in the month of November and I cannot wait to tell you all about them and to discuss a couple of reading stats that I always love sharing at the beginning of each wrap-up. Before I tell you guys about all of the books that I read in the month of November, I wanted to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is none other than Book of the Month. It's the way that we're matching. It's almost like I planned this, but not really. This was totally coincidental. For those of you who don't know, Book of the Month is the perfect online book service for readers like you and me, who are just looking for our next favorite book. Their team vets hundreds of books to give us a monthly selection of new and early release titles so that we can spend more time reading and less time researching. They also offer the best prices for new released hardcover fiction. You can get your first hardcover book for only $5 using the code SWEATER. My favorite thing about Book of the Month is that they help me get out of my comfort zone and they help me find books that I would have otherwise never picked up, and thanks to them I've actually found all-time new favorite books. So I definitely have a lot of things to thank Book of the Month for. I also love that they are risk-free. You can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. My picks for this month were Tomb Sweeping by Alexandra Chang and The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. Make sure that you head on over to bookofthemonth.com to check out their other picks and get your first book for only $5 using the code SWEATER. Thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, let's get into some monthly reading stats. As I mentioned in the beginning, I read a total of 13 books, which equals 5,951 pages. Most of the books that I read were adventurous, dark, lighthearted, and emotional. Honestly, at this point, I'm not surprised by my reading moods. I'm always looking for dark and emotional. If you're surprised at this point, welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy your stay. 100% of the books that I read this month were fiction, which honestly, again, does not surprise me because me and nonfiction, we're not the best of friends. We're not that close. We usually just avoid each other, but I'm hoping to change that in 2024. So I mean, if you have any nonfiction recommendations that you think I would enjoy, please leave them in the comments below because so far I haven't had the best of luck with nonfiction. In terms of genre, I read a lot of manga and fantasy, romance, mystery, and literary fiction. So a very interesting and eclectic collection of genres this month. The majority of the books that I read this month were physical, but I did read one audiobook and a couple of ebooks. So we had a little bit of all the formats in the month of November. And then my average rating was 4.19 stars, which is not the highest that it's ever been, but it's also not the lowest. So I'm pretty happy with my average rating. And now, I mean, let's just get this started. The very first book that I read in the month of November was Godkiller, written by Hannah Kaner. In this world, there are gods, and there are also god killers. In this world, gods have been banned because they got too greedy with their power. So the king was like, okay, I'm gonna go to war against the gods and everybody has to help me out because if you don't help me, we're going to die and we're going to become slaves to these gods. So we're following this god killer who stumbles upon this little girl who has a god as a pet. But he's not like other gods. Like, yeah, we have different types of gods as well. Girl, this is so complicated. I hate, what's that word? I hate describing fantasy books, especially if it's like the very first one, because this world is so vast and it's so rich and it has so many details, and I don't know how to explain it in a way that makes sense. The point is, this god killer and this little girl who has a god as a pet, they decide to go on this quest or to go on this journey in order to see if there's any way that they can separate this god from the little girl, because they're basically feeding off from each other, and if they ever try to like separate, it like really hurts and they start dying. So for reasons, this god killer, she's trying to help this little girl, and on their way to find answers to this unsolvable problem, they also meet this other guy who he has his own reasons for slaying gods and for wanting to find a god. He's like trying to help his best friend because his heart is like in trouble and he's like dying, and he's like, the only way that I can survive is if you go to a god and you ask for a favor. So then we have these three characters, and even though they kind of like, they don't trust each other, but they all have like this one common goal, so they team up and they're going on this journey. They're going on a trip to their favorite rocket ship, and you know, they don't trust each other. They constantly think that they're going to be betrayed by one another, so like the stakes are high, the tension is growing between them, and they all have very different personalities, which makes for very fun banter. It's just fun to be with them because they're very funny and sarcastic and witty. I also feel like the fight scenes, when they have to like protect each other, they have very good synergy between them, and it was like really fun to read those fight scenes because I don't know, I guess I was just in the mood for action and adventure, and this book definitely gave me that. But at the same time, I just feel like I didn't connect with these characters. Like if any of them died, I would have been fine. I would have been like, well, that sucks, but I don't see why I have to care. So connecting with the characters is a big thing for me, because if I don't feel any type of connection with them, or if I don't form any type of bond, I just don't care what happens to them, and that translates to me not caring about the overall story. So even though it was a fun time, I just don't see myself continuing this trilogy because I don't care. Even though it was fun, it has good writing, it has an interesting plot that could definitely get even more interesting with the more books that come out. It has fun characters, they have interesting backstories, they have enough trauma to keep one entertained. But just like, again, overall, maybe it's just a matter of me not being the right audience for this book, because objectively, it's a pretty good book. Yeah, like it has all of the elements that make up a good book, but for me as a reader, it just didn't hook me. So because of that, I ended up giving this 3.75 stars, and I don't think I'm going to be continuing with the series. No, I don't think. I know I'm not going to be continuing with this series, but it was still pretty good. Like the time that I spent with this book was pretty enjoyable. I cherished the times that we spent together, but they're over now, so we're going to move on. The next book that I read was actually the one audiobook that I read in the month of November, and it was Misery by Stephen King. This was my very first Stephen King experience, and I will be so honest right now, I was expecting something a bit better. Because Misery is basically about this man who gets kidnapped by this deranged, unhinged woman. She says that he's her favorite character, and she's read all of the books that he's written. She loves everything that he's done. When she finds him in the middle of the road, you know, his car is broken down, there's like this huge snowstorm, she's like, oh my god, this is fate, this is kismet, like I was supposed to save you, and now I'm going to nurse you back to health. Basically, in her mind, she's not doing anything wrong, she's just helping this man get better. But the thing is that she doesn't let him get better, because the conditions that she keeps him in, they're just atrocious, and they obviously hinder his journey towards recovery. And like he has this really bad injury in his leg, so he can't walk, and she keeps like injecting him with medicine, so like at one point he just becomes a junkie. And I don't know, this woman, she doesn't like what he did in his last book, because he kills off her favorite character. So she's like, okay, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna write another book. She cannot be dead, so you need to write another book where she comes back to life. You cannot leave my house until you give me this new book. So basically, it's this very weird relationship that they start building, where he's just constantly terrified that she's going to do some bodily harm to him, and she's just waiting for the next installment in his series. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be in that situation where I'm like stuck in this super fans or sassing. She's literally a sassing, yeah. I would not want to be in this type of situation, but I think that maybe watching a movie about it would be more horrifying than actually reading about it, because I don't know, like at one point the story just felt so stale and nothing was happening. It was like more of the same, where she comes in and he's terrified and she does something. It's interesting to see this man slowly lose his mind and then just like slowly lose his grasp on reality. But at the same time, like, it was just a lot of the same stuff happening all over again. And at one point I just got really bored because nothing new was happening. Like, yeah, we're losing our minds and things are looking not so good, but like, give me something to keep me entertained. I'm so sorry, like, my attention was just not with this book. I've always heard that Stephen King is like the king of horror, or he's like the father of horror, something along those lines. So I really was expecting a more horrifying reading experience, and when I didn't get that, I was just a little bit disappointed. I will say the last 30% of this book was actually insane. Like, I was not expecting that twist. I was not expecting this extreme turn of events, and that last 30% is the reason that I gave this book 3 stars, because otherwise it would have been a very solid 2-star. But that last 30%, it gave it 1 more star. Overall, I didn't have the best first experience with Stephen King, but if there's any book that you think I would enjoy of his, then please leave them down below, because I'm honestly still open to trying him out. But maybe I'll lower my expectations, because yeah. The next book that I read finally gave me some good food. I was so happy when I read this book because it was so scrumptious. It was literally everything that I was looking for. I mean, I didn't even know I was looking for a book like this until I read it, and that is Evocation, written by S.T. Gibson. I was extremely lucky enough to receive an ARC of this book, because this isn't even out. This comes out the 28th of May in 2024. And S.T. Gibson is also the author of A Dowry of Blood, which is an incredible book that I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, my expectations for Evocation were through the roof. Like, I had some really big expectations for this baby, and I am so happy to say that it reached all of my expectations. It was such an incredible reading experience, and I had so much fun getting to know these characters and getting to know this world. We basically have witches, we have mediums, we have ghosts, we have poltergeists, we have demons, we have devils, we have, like, all of the stories are true basically. In Evocation, we're following these 3 characters that are called David, Riss, and Moira. Moira? Yes! Oh my god, I can't believe I remembered those names. But anyways, yes, we have David, Riss, and Moira. David is a medium, and he is being haunted, or like he is being possessed, but he doesn't know by what. But he just knows that he keeps losing time. He keeps feeling like his life force is being sucked out of him. So he seeks the help of his ex-boyfriend Riss, who is now married to Moira, who is also, what is she? She like reads cards. Oh, astrologer wife. And then Riss is a sorcerer. We also have secret societies, pacts with the devil, ancestors that are haunting us beyond the grave. And of course, like the cherry on top, we have the relationship between David, Riss, and Moira. Yes, you heard me right. It's one relationship between all 3 of them. But then also we have the relationships between David and Moira, David and Riss, Riss and Moira, Riss and David. It's just like, I cannot formulate enough sentences to coherently explain how much I loved this book and how fun it was. I devoured this book. I think I read it in like a day and a half because I just couldn't put it down. I didn't want to put it down. I wanted to find out what was going on with David. I wanted to find out if we were going to get a happy ending. And I loved seeing the relationships between all 3 of these characters develop, because it felt so natural. It felt so genuine. It didn't feel forced. It just felt like it had to happen, like it was supposed to happen this way. And of course, S.T. Gibson's writing was so beautiful and lyrical and majestic and dreamlike. And there are so many sentences and so many moments that I just underlined completely. I cannot show you because this is an unproofed, uncorrected first proof, not for sale or quotation. So I can't actually show any of the things that I loved, but just know that I annotated quite a lot. Like, just see the amount of tabs that I used for this baby. That's how you know that I loved a book, when it has a bunch of annotations. I did write a couple of trigger warnings at the beginning because we do see a lot of alcohol abuse, abuse by a parent, and addiction. So just keep that in mind if you're planning to read Evocation. Oh my god, look, this whole page is highlighted. This scene, these characters, this book is laced with crack, confirmed. Yeah, I am quite literally on my knees. I need more of them. I am banging my head against the wall, incoherent screaming. I love my dads so much. Give me 20 more pages of this. I love reading through my annotations because they're so funny. They're so funny, but also the book is so funny. I mean, I feel like I can show this to you guys. I'm not even quoting the book. It's just that at one point it says One Piece, and I put Drums of Liberation aggressively playing in the background. Can you tell that I have One Piece brain rot? Oh my god, speaking of One Piece, fancy that. Oh my god, it's almost like I planned it. I literally did not plan this, but the next books that I read in the month of November were One Piece. Yes, oh my god, who is surprised by this turn of events? Absolutely no one. Again, if you're surprised by this, welcome to my channel. Hi, I love having you here. I managed to read all of these One Piece volumes because I finally found volume 8 of the omnibus versions. For some reason, I don't even know why, but this is like sold out everywhere. I talked about this in my previous vlog, but like I looked for it on Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Thrift Books, Amazon, Right Stuff before it closed, Crunchyroll store. Literally nobody had it. It was almost like it never existed. And I was, you know, I was kind of accepting the fact that my collection was never going to be complete, and I was so close to just reading the manga online, which I really struggle with reading manga virtually or like digitally because it really hurts my eyes. But yeah, I was gonna get over that. I was just gonna have to deal with the migraine and read One Piece. But then, lo and behold, God is real. My friend Sunny, if you're watching this, hi Sunny, everybody say hi Sunny. She sent me a link to a Pango Books listing, and she was like, oh my god, is this the volume that you're missing? And it literally was. Like, I still can't get over that that happened and that this is in my hands now and that I finally got to read it. Anyways, long story short, thanks to Sunny, I was finally able to continue reading my manga of One Piece. So this is the first volume that I read, which is volume 8 of the omnibus versions. This is Baroque Works, so we're still in Alabasta. And then I read the 3 volumes of Skypiea. So these 3 bad boys. Espérate, why are you hiding? Don't hide. Then I read these 3 volumes of Skypiea, and I love Skypiea. I know a couple of people that have skipped that arc in the anime for reasons unbeknownst to me. It honestly makes absolutely no sense to me why you would skip Skypiea, but I read it and I loved it and it was hilarious, and I ate these babies up. I literally read all of these in like one day. It also helped that my country was going through like this insane thunderstorm, and like there was a bunch of rain and we basically lost power, so I literally had nothing else to do except read. So thank goodness that I had so many unread One Piece volumes, because I had the time of my life reading these. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by the fact that I gave all of these volumes 5 out of 5 stars. There's literally nothing else I could give these books. I think the first 7 omnibus volumes I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I feel like now the story is really picking up, and obviously we now have Chopper with us, so it's like, hey, I literally have no choice but to give these books 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, One Piece, oh my god, should I even try and explain what One Piece is about? I am like the worst person at trying to explain stories like these, especially ones that are so complex, and there's like literally more than meets the eye. Like, I could tell you what this is about, but I still wouldn't be able to explain why it's so amazing and why it's like now a favorite story of mine. But basically, we have pirates, right? And we're following this one pirate that's called Luffy, and his dream is to become the king of the pirates. And in order to do this, he needs to find the One Piece, which is this legend of this treasure that was hidden by the last king of the pirates. And yeah, basically whoever finds the One Piece becomes the king of the pirates. And every pirate around the world is trying to find this One Piece. And Luffy, he's like, okay, I'm gonna build myself a crew and we're going to sail the Grand Line and we're going to go to all of these different islands. We're going to go on a bunch of different adventures. We're gonna meet a bunch of different people and we're going to find the One Piece. And then it's just basically Luffy and the people that he adopts along the way. Each of them have different dreams and different goals and aspirations, but they're all working together to fulfill their own dreams, and it's just beautiful. Like, you know, I explained the basic premise of One Piece, but I still, like, girl, like, it's so much more than that. Like, it goes beyond what I just explained, but again, I suck at explaining stories. That's like my one fatal flaw. So anyways, I read a bunch of One Piece and I'm definitely going to be reading a lot more One Piece come December. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. The next book that I read in the month of November, I'm honestly shocked that I can finally have this book in a wrap-up, because I've been saying that I'm going to read this book since maybe like April. It's always been in my monthly TBRs, but for some reason or other, I never get around to reading it. Whether I'm too intimidated by it, or I'm just not in the mood for a classic, or I just had better books to read at the time. But I finally prioritized this book this month and I read it and I loved it. And that book is North and South, written by Elizabeth Gaskell. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy that I persevered. I'm so happy that I finally prioritized reading North and South this month, because I loved it. Thank you to everybody that compared this to Pride and Prejudice, because that definitely motivated me to pick this book up. It also helped that I rewatched the 2005 movie adaptation and I was like, okay, I need more. I need more stories like this. I'm sorry, what? Don't. So I picked up North and South and it was incredible. I honestly had a lot more fun than I thought I would reading North and South. The first couple of chapters, I was kind of not struggling, but like they were a bit slow to get into, because of course we're getting introduced to a bunch of new characters. There's like 10 new characters that you get introduced to in the first 2 chapters. So it was overwhelming, and we also have like this new world, this new society to get used to. But the more time that you spend with these characters and the more chapters that you read, the easier it gets for you to get sucked into this story and for you to just become invested in these characters' lives and to just like hope for the best for them, because we are following this character that's called Margaret, and she is a very headstrong female lead. I absolutely adored her. Like the way that she lives her life, the way that she interacts with different people, the way that she doesn't let any person, whether it be her mom, her dad, or men that are trying to control her life, who think that they know what's best for her, but she's like, you know what, thank you for your opinion, but I did not ask for it. She doesn't let anyone control her life except herself. I love seeing all of the different ways in which she changes and the reasons behind them, and the way that she grows as a person is so commendable. And I love seeing her just react to different situations. And honestly, she's just such a girl's girl, you know what I mean? Like, I loved getting to know her, and I love seeing her in different situations and just like strutting her stuff, you know what I mean? It was so fun. And this story is so engaging because I didn't know where the story was going to go. I just thought it was going to be like a silly, goofy classic novel. You know, we're going to have a couple of topics here and there, but it was basically going to be this love story between Margaret and whoever she decided to marry. I was not expecting this book to delve so deeply into the differences between the working class and the upper middle class, but I think that Margaret is like the perfect viewpoint to see this situation from, because she's coming from the north, which is this place that lives off of nature. She's not really used to the south, where there's a lot of factories and a lot of people are just very unhappy with their situations because they're poor and they're working towards having a better life, but because of the conditions that they have to work in, it's just kind of like this vicious cycle. And Margaret, having no idea how these things work, she's kind of just like questioning everything and trying to understand why or how this system was created, and why the workers are often the ones that get the most consequences when literally they're the only ones that are doing the work. So it's an interesting insight into that sort of dynamic between the upper class and the working class, also like the factory owner and factory workers. So there's like a lot of discussions that are being had, and then surrounding all of those situations we also have like this budding love story between Margaret and Mr. Thornton, yes. I think actually my favorite thing about North and South is the writing style, because Elizabeth Gaskell, she has such a talent for weaving such descriptive and beautiful imagery in your mind. Like, there were a couple of scenes that were written so realistically and so vividly that it felt like I was right there with them, and it was such an interesting reading experience, because that usually doesn't happen to me a lot, where I feel like I'm transported into the book and I feel like I can see what the character is seeing and I can hear and feel the things that she is hearing and feeling. Yeah, it was a very, what's that word? It was a very, when you're like really in it, it was like a very, not encompassing, it was a very ideal like when, you know, like when you're like right there with them, it was very, yes, you know exactly what I'm trying to say. It was very that, and I really enjoyed it, and I just had a wonderful time reading North and South. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, because I will say the beginning was very slow and it was kind of hard to get into it, but then after a couple of chapters the story starts picking up and you start connecting with these characters, and then it's easier to like the story. But it did take me a time to like get used to it. The next book that I read was Remarkably Bright Creatures, written by Shelby Van Pelt. This was a very cute story. It was a very heartwarming and I would say lighthearted, because we're basically following these different people who are all dealing with different things in their lives. Like, we have this one character who's called Tova, and she's recently lost her husband and her son, so she's dealing with a lot of grief and she's trying to just move on with her life. And she's working as a cleaning lady in an aquarium, and in this aquarium there's this huge bright octopus, and for some reason she develops a relationship with him. They just kind of talk, like obviously they don't talk, but they have conversations, and we do get a couple of chapters from the octopuses. Yes, we also get a few chapters from his point of view, which is also very endearing and very fun. He's honestly a very funny character, very sarcastic and very witty and very smart, I will say that. And then we also have another character who I don't know the name of, I'm so sorry, but it's basically this other kid who doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. He's just kind of just seeing where life takes him, but he's not entirely happy with the life that he has led. So he tries to make a couple of changes, and in his journey towards self-discovery, he meets up with Tova, and he also eventually gets to meet the octopus. And we're basically following these 3 people, well, 2 people and 1 octopus, who have very different journeys, but they all lead to the same point. And it's, again, very heartwarming, very sweet. I really wanted to love this book more than I did, because this is a favorite of one of my Patreons, and she actually gave this to me as a gift, and she loves it. It's literally her brand. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It's just kind of like, it's giving 3 stars, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was fun, but I don't think, like, I don't see myself picking it up again. I didn't really connect with the characters, so like the emotional connection just wasn't there. And I think because I didn't have that connection, those moments of epiphany that these characters had, they just didn't hit as hard as they normally would. Overall, it was a really fun and heartwarming experience, but I wouldn't want to repeat it. And yeah, after Remarkably Bright Creatures, I finally picked up my Kindle again, which is something that I haven't done in a very long time. On my Kindle, I read volume 9 of My Love Mix-Up, which is the last volume of this series, and it was so cute. Okay, at one point I was scared because the author took things where I really didn't want them to go. Eventually she fixed it. It was a false alarm, and then I ended up absolutely adoring it. Like, it's not a story that I would die for, but it is a story that had me giggling and kicking my feet up in the air, and I was just loving these characters, loving their interactions. It was so cute and so heartwarming again, very lighthearted. If you're a fan of Heartstopper, then I think you would really adore My Love Mix-Up because it's just cute, okay? Like, there are zero stakes involved. It's just very cozy and very fun, and these characters are just so adorable. It's this coming-of-age story where these characters are getting to know themselves and they're getting to know what they like. They're about to graduate from high school, so they have to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives, while at the same time they're falling in love with people that they never thought they would fall in love with. And it's just, it was adorable. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Such a good time. I loved it. It was so good. Again, if you're a fan of Heartstopper, you're going to love this one. Like, 100% confirmed you're going to love this one. I also read Spy Family Volume 10, and I will be very honest, this is the first Spy Family volume that I did not give 4 stars or higher. I actually gave this one 3.75 stars. I don't know why. I think because volume 8 and 9 were so good, and they were like literally 5 stars. Amazing, incredible reading experiences. I loved where the story was going. I was eating that up, like I never wanted it to end. And then volume 10 came, and it was like, okay, I don't know, like we did get a backstory from a character that we all love and adore, and it was really interesting to see how his life started and how he became the person that he is now. But just like overall, I don't know, I guess I was expecting a little bit more and I didn't really get that little bit more that I was looking for. But of course, we still have the stunning Anya, and she's just being her adorable self. Obviously, I'm still going to be reading the rest of the volumes whenever they come out, but this one is definitely not my favorite. Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. Okay, I was expecting something else, I guess. Then I read All You Need Is Kill, art by Takeshi Obata. Takeshi Obata is also the artist behind Death Note, and I could definitely see a lot of his art style behind these panels. And honestly, this is like a very gorgeous manga, which is not something that you would expect. I don't think gorgeous is the word. I just think it's like very detailed, and just look at this. Like, there is so much to see. There is so much information packed into this one panel, and I don't know, I just found it really gorgeous. All You Need Is Kill. We're basically following this one character who is in the middle of a war against aliens. He is stuck in a time loop where he is constantly dying, and then he just wakes up and dies all over again. Well, he tries to understand what's going on and why he's stuck in this time loop. He decides that the best way through this is to train and get good enough to kill all of these aliens in order to survive the day and get out of this time loop. And also, along this journey, he meets this other character, her, who is known as the Full Metal Bitch, and she has some incredible skills at killing these aliens. And turns out that she's also been stuck in a time loop, and she may be the key to stopping his own time loop. So they start working together, they start training together. Look at this. Yes, look at her though. Like, can we talk about her? It's her for me. She is the moment. I gave All You Need Is Kill 4 out of 5 stars because I honestly really enjoyed this. I think it's a very gorgeous manga, and I think the panels are just incredible. There are some panels that were so shocking, like so visually shocking. I don't know, I just had a really good time reading it. I think the story as well is very original and very unique. Obviously be aware that it is a little bit gory, not gonna lie, but I don't feel like that's surprising because there's a war going on against aliens and it's this guy that is constantly dying. We have a little bit of horror, we have a lot of action, we have very interesting characters. We just have a very great story and I really enjoyed it and I would honestly really recommend. So if you're looking for an action-packed manga that only has 2 volumes, like literally this is the only one that you have to read. If you're looking for a manga story like that, I would highly recommend All You Need Is Kill. And I love the fact that we match. Hello? Yes. The last book that I read in the month of November was actually my Patreon pick of the month, and that was The Secret History, written by Donna Tartt. Oh my god, all I'm gonna say is, because I do have an entire reading vlog dedicated to this over on my Patreon, all I'm going to say is I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It does have a couple of problematic scenes that made me really uncomfortable and it stopped me from giving it like it's all around 5-star. But overall, I mean, like, I'm not saying anything new. This is so hyped for a reason. The character study, the story itself, the pacing, the buildup of the tension, the relationships between all of them, both individually and as a group, as a whole, like, oh my god. Oh my god, there is so much to dissect and there is so much to love and analyze about The Secret History. And I love how low-key, surprisingly funny this story is. Like, it's not even trying to be funny because most of the comedy stems from the stupidity of these characters and just how ridiculous they are and how stupid and superficial, but at the same time how deeply flawed they are, because at the end of the day they're just humans. You know, they're trying their best to carve their own paths in this world, but they go about it in the most awful of ways. If you've never heard of The Secret History before, we're basically following this group of friends who murder one of their own. Yeah, they do have their own reasons, but at the end of the day, murder is murder, okay? It doesn't matter if you're a bad person, if you're a good person. You killed someone, and now you have to live with the consequences of that action. We're following these characters as they slowly lose their sanity and as they slowly lose their minds. I love The Secret History, and I love the fact that I got to read it with my Patreons because now I have an entire vlog dedicated to this book, so I'm very happy with that turn of events. And I loved rereading this because this was not my first rodeo with this book, but oh my god, just incredible, amazing, would 100% recommend. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of November. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of the month was. Are there any books that you would like to recommend to me? Let me know anything and everything in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps my channel out and it helps me know that you guys enjoy these videos and that I can keep doing more of them. Also, if you haven't done your nice thing of the day, this could be your nice thing. I also have a Patreon where I post exclusive content. I host readathons, reading sprints, and a monthly book club. So if that is something that sounds interesting to you, the link is down below as always. Once again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're still here, I want you to know that I love you so much and I appreciate you being here until the end. It honestly means the world to me. If nobody has told you lately, you're doing an amazing job and I am so proud of you. So hopefully I will definitely be seeing you next time. Bye.
Hey Jimmy, you nice, keep going.